You weren't hard to love, you were hard to replace, you weren't hard to love. Loving you was effortless because you gave yourself fully, without hesitation or pretense. It wasn't about grand gestures or constant reassurance. It was in the quiet ways you showed up, the subtle attentions that made him feel seen in ways no one else ever could. You laughed at the right moments, listened when words failed, and carried patience in your heart that taught him what real love felt like. The challenge wasn't in loving you. It was in imagining life after you, in facing the void your absence left behind. Because you weren't just part of his life, you became a part of him, woven into his routines, his memories, his very way of being. And when you left, no replacement could ever measure up. He moves on, he survives, but he never forgets. Because some love leaves a mark too permanent to erase. The uniqueness of a connection like yours is what makes someone impossible to replace. It is not about grand gestures, dramatic moments, or constant declarations. It is about the way two lives intertwine so naturally, so completely, that they became a singular experience for both people. With her, he discovered a bond that felt rare because it was built on mutual understanding, subtle attentiveness, and shared experiences that created their own private language. She knew him in ways few people ever did, noticing the things he did not say, understanding the moods he tried to hide, and responding not just with affection, but with insight that made him feel genuinely seen. That kind of connection cannot be replicated because it is not simply a matter of spending time together. It is the culmination of countless small interactions, emotional synchrony, and a depth of presence that becomes impossible to duplicate. The uniqueness of their connection also comes from the way she complemented, filling emotional spaces he may not have even realized existed. She offered support, reassurance, and patience in ways that were tailored to him specifically. It wasn't a generic love, easily reproduced for anyone. It was a love that understood him on a level that felt intuitive and effortless. She could anticipate his needs, sense his doubts, and bring calm to moments of chaos, not through force or obligation, but through the natural rhythm of her presence. This kind of bond creates a sense of irreplaceability because it is rooted in compatibility, understanding, and empathy that cannot simply be handed to someone else. No one else can step into that role and carry the same depth of connection because it was built uniquely between the two of them. Their connection was further solidified through shared experiences that carried emotional significance. It was in the late-night conversations that stretched into dawn, the quiet silences that spoke volumes, and the shared laughter that turned ordinary moments into memories he could never forget. These experiences were layered with meaning because they were experienced together in ways that no one else could replicate. Even when life moved on, those memories remained, etched into his mind as a reminder of what was unique and irreplaceable. The connection was not fleeting or superficial, it was cumulative, growing stronger with each shared moment, each act of care, and each instance of mutual understanding. Moreover, the uniqueness of their bond lies in how it shaped his identity. Being loved and understood in that particular way allowed him to feel fully himself, to trust and open up in ways he may not have with anyone else. That experience becomes part of who he is, and because it is woven into his identity, no replacement can occupy that space without fundamentally altering who he is. The uniqueness of the connection ensures that she remains irreplaceable, not because she was impossible to love, but because what they shared was singular, profound, and tied intrinsically to both of their hearts. The emotional impact of her love is one of the deepest reasons he can never truly replace her. It is not just the intensity of feelings at the moment, but the lasting imprint those feelings leave on his heart and mind. Loving her wasn't a fleeting experience, it was immersive, transformative, and all-encompassing in ways he didn't even realize at the time. Every gesture, every word, every shared glance carried meaning that resonated far beyond the immediate moment. She had a way of making him feel seen, understood, and valued in a manner that went beyond superficial affection. That kind of emotional impact lingers because it touches the core of who he is, shaping not only how he remembers her, but also how he experiences connection with others. It creates a standard of emotional depth that few people can meet, making it difficult for anyone else to measure up. Her emotional impact came from the authenticity and sincerity of her presence. She did not hold back her feelings or express care conditionally. He knew that what she offered, her attention, patience, and affection, was real, not performative. That authenticity created a space where he could be fully himself, vulnerable without fear, and engaged without pretense. The intensity of her emotional investment communicated to him that he mattered deeply, and it left a mark that went beyond temporary attraction or infatuation. He remembers not only how she made him feel loved, but also how she influenced the way he felt about himself, teaching him that he was deserving of attention, care, and deep emotional connection. The emotional impact also exists in the subtle, almost invisible ways she influenced him. It was in her patience during moments of frustration, her encouragement when he doubted himself, and her gentle corrections that guided him toward growth without judgment. These seemingly small moments accumulated over time, creating a profound influence on his emotional life. Her presence reshaped his understanding of intimacy, trust, and emotional openness. Even after she is gone, he carries these lessons with him. They influence the way he navigates relationships, the depth of connection he seeks, and the emotional walls he is willing or unwilling to lower. Furthermore, emotional impact is magnified by memory. The mind tends to preserve what moves it most, and her love moved him deeply. He remembers the quiet moments, the conversations that lasted hours, the silences that were comforting rather than empty, the gestures that communicated understanding without words. These memories become touchstones, repeatedly reminding him of the emotional resonance he experienced with her. They are benchmarks for what he now seeks in relationships, whether consciously or not. Her emotional depth becomes an inseparable part of how he defines love and care, ensuring that even as life moves forward, her influence remains present. Ultimately, the emotional impact she had is a force that cannot be replicated. It is woven into the very fabric of his memory, his habits, and his expectations. Loving her shaped him in ways that linger, ensuring that while he may find love again, he will never find the exact depth, authenticity, or resonance that she brought to his life. The way their lives became intertwined is one of the most compelling reasons she cannot be replaced. It wasn't merely that they spent time together or shared moments, it was that she became a part of the fabric of his daily existence, woven into routines, thoughts, and memories so seamlessly that her absence created a void no one else could fill. She was present in ways both large and subtle. Her influence reached beyond words and gestures, extending into the rhythm of his life, the coffee they shared in the mornings, the way she instinctively knew how to calm his anxieties, the unspoken understanding that colored their interactions. All of these elements became part of his identity, shaping how he moved through the world. That level of integration makes her irreplaceable because it is impossible to replicate the precise combination of familiarity, understanding, and emotional resonance that had developed over time. Intertwined lives also mean that shared experiences accumulate in ways that anchor memory and emotional connection. They weren't just passing through life together, they were actively shaping it side by side. Trips, long conversations, small rituals, even the silent presence of being together. These moments layered over months and years to create a sense of intimacy that is unique to them. When someone becomes embedded in your habits and routines, their absence is felt in ordinary moments, the places they used to occupy, the conversations that no longer occur, the little gestures that now have no counterpart. These empty spaces act as constant reminders of the life they shared, making replacement not a matter of finding someone new, but a matter of confronting a gap that cannot be filled by another. The intertwining also extends to emotional and mental patterns. She didn't just influence his actions, she influenced the way he thought and felt. Her presence shaped the way he approached challenges, communicated with others, and even processed emotions. The patience she taught him, the understanding she demonstrated, and the way she encouraged him to open up became embedded in his behavior. These lessons are subtle but lasting, becoming part of who he is. Because these influences were unique to the relationship they shared, no one else can provide the same cues, the same emotional resonance, or the same guiding presence. Her impact continues to shape his responses and interactions long after she is gone, reinforcing her irreplaceability. Intertwined lives create a sense of continuity that persists even in absence. Memories are not isolated snapshots, they are threads woven into a larger narrative of shared existence. Everyday experiences, listening to a song they once loved, visiting a place that held significance, recalling a private joke, trigger recognition of her presence are reminding him of how deeply she was connected to his life. Replacement is impossible because no one else has occupied those spaces, contributed to those experiences, or influenced him in the same way. The integration of her being into his world means that even if he meets someone new, There will always be an echo of her in his life, a standard set by the depth and completeness of the connection they once shared. Her presence was not just companionship. It became part of his life's structure, his emotional ecosystem, and his internal rhythm. That is why she is impossible to replace. She is embedded in the very way he experiences life, a permanent presence in the patterns, habits, and memories that define him. The consistency and reliability of her love is one of the quiet, enduring reasons she cannot be replaced. It is not about grand gestures or dramatic displays, but about the subtle, unwavering ways she showed up day after day, in ways both seen and unseen. She was steady, not perfect, but dependable, someone whose care and presence could be counted on even when circumstances were difficult or moods were unpredictable. That reliability created a sense of emotional safety that is rare in relationships, a foundation that allowed him to open up fully, trust deeply, and feel secure in ways he had never experienced before. When someone demonstrates that level of consistency, their absence becomes a constant reminder of what is missing. Others may try to fill the space, but the standard she set cannot be easily matched because it is not about effort alone. It is about the quiet power of dependable, authentic love. Her consistency was expressed not only in the big moments, but in the small, often overlooked aspects of daily life. It was in the way she remembered the little things that mattered to him, the details of conversations, the moods he struggled to articulate, and the subtle needs he didn't voice aloud. She followed through on promises, offered support without complaint, and maintained a presence that reassured him he was valued. These repeated acts of care, often unnoticed in their immediacy, accumulate over time to create a profound emotional anchor. It is in the accumulation of these moments, these tiny but constant demonstrations of love and attention, that her reliability becomes unforgettable. The absence of this steadfastness after she is gone leaves a void that cannot be easily replaced because no one else has had the opportunity to build that same pattern of trust and dependability. Consistency also extends to emotional availability. She did not disappear during tough times, avoid difficult conversations, or retreat when emotions ran high. Instead, she met him where he was, providing patience, understanding, and perspective. That kind of emotional steadiness teaches a person what it feels like to be fully supported, not occasionally but persistently. It is a form of love that becomes internalized, shaping his expectations of connection and trust in all future relationships. When someone like this leaves, it is not just her presence that is missed, but the emotional rhythm she brought to his life, the reassurance that no matter what happened, he could rely on her stability. That rhythm is nearly impossible to reproduce because it was uniquely calibrated to him and the life they shared. The effect of her consistency is also reflected in memory. He remembers her presence in both ordinary and extraordinary moments, not because she was flashy or dramatic, but because she was unwavering. He remembers how he could lean on her without fear, how she showed up in ways that seemed effortless yet required quiet strength. The imprint of her reliability lingers because it became part of the way he understood what love could feel like. Other relationships may offer warmth, affection, or attention, but few can match the quiet, persistent reassurance of someone who is steadfast in both word and action. That is why she is irreplaceable. Her consistency was not simply an act, but a living pattern that shaped him, nurtured him, and left a mark no one else can replicate. The lessons and growth he experienced through her love are among the most lasting ways she continues to shape his life, making her impossible to replace. Loving her was not simply a matter of feeling affection, it was a journey of transformation. She challenged him, encouraged him, and reflected back to him a version of himself that he hadn't fully recognized. Through her patience, insight, and presence, he learned not only how to give and receive love, but also how to navigate his own emotions, confront insecurities, and grow as a person. This kind of impact cannot be replicated because it is deeply tied to the unique dynamic they shared, the way she pushed him toward growth without demanding it, the way her love modeled understanding, empathy, and emotional intelligence, and the subtle ways her influence shaped his decisions and worldview over time. Her influence often came in quiet, almost invisible ways, woven into the fabric of everyday life. It wasn't always a grand lesson or a deliberate moment of teaching. It was in the way she listened, without judgment, encouraged him when he doubted himself, and celebrated his strengths while guiding him to recognize his weaknesses. She demonstrated the value of patience and understanding through her actions, creating an environment where he could confront his flaws without fear. In doing so, she expanded his capacity for empathy, emotional awareness, and resilience. These lessons, absorbed over time, became a part of who he is, shaping not only his relationships with others, but also his relationship with himself. They are enduring because they are internalized, becoming unconscious habits and perspectives that persist long after she is gone. The growth he experienced through her love also altered his standards for connection and intimacy. Through her, he discovered what it felt like to be truly seen, understood, and valued for who he is, not just for the parts he presents to the world. That awareness became a reference point for all future interactions, consciously or subconsciously influencing the way he relates to others. No one else can replicate the exact combination of insight, encouragement, and emotional resonance she offered, which means the lessons she imparted are permanently etched into his sense of self. They are inseparable from his identity, and any attempt to replace her would inevitably fall short because her influence is not external. It has become internalized. Her impact also extends to the ways he navigates challenges, makes decisions, and approaches vulnerability. Through her guidance and presence, he learned patience in times of frustration, courage in moments of fear, and openness when confronting his own emotions. These habits of thought and behavior are subtle but profound, shaping the way he experiences life long after she is gone. They are part of the invisible architecture of his personality, quietly guiding him in ways he may not even consciously recognize. Ultimately, the lessons and growth she left behind ensure that her presence continues to echo in his life. Her influence is embedded in the way he loves, the way he thinks, and the way he interacts with the world. It is this permanent shaping, this quiet but transformative imprint that makes her irreplaceable. The irreplaceable nature of her memory is perhaps the most enduring reason he cannot truly move on. Memory is not just a recollection of events, it is an emotional archive that preserves the depth, nuance, and intensity of the connection they shared. She occupied a space in his life so uniquely that every detail, every nuance becomes unforgettable. He remembers her laughter, her gestures, the subtle ways she made him feel seen and understood, and even the silence they shared that spoke volumes. These moments are embedded not only in his mind, but in his emotional core, shaping the way he perceives love, trust, and intimacy. Memory, in this sense, becomes a living presence, one that interacts with him daily, guiding his emotions, influencing his choices, and setting a standard for relationships that is almost impossible to replicate. Her memory is irreplaceable because it captures a combination of qualities, behaviors, and emotional resonance that no one else can duplicate. She was not merely a collection of habits or appearances. She was a presence, a force, a way of interacting with the world and with him that was singular. That combination of authenticity, care, attention, and understanding becomes impossible to reproduce, no matter how similar another person may seem. Even if he meets someone new, the echoes of her presence remain. The way she laughed, the way he challenged him, the way she made him feel simultaneously safe and alive. These imprints create a contrast between memory and present experience, making it impossible for him to fully replace her because no one can embody what he experienced with her in exactly the same way. Memory also preserves emotional highs in a way reality cannot. The way she loved him, the tenderness, the patience, the intimacy, remains magnified in memory, often softened of flaws and conflict, and amplified in its beauty and depth. Human memory has a way of idealizing those we cannot have back, making the love and connection feel even more profound than it may have seemed in real time. This idealization ensures that, even as he moves forward in life, her presence continues to occupy a space in his heart that no replacement can reach. Every attempt to compare new relationships to the memory of her falls short, not because others are lacking, but because the memory itself carries a richness and emotional density that is uniquely hers. Furthermore, memory intertwines with identity. The experiences, lessons, and moments he shared with her are inseparable from the person he has become. She shaped his understanding of love, vulnerability, and trust, embedding herself not just in recollection, but in the structure of who he is. That makes the memory irreplaceable, because it is not merely about missing her presence, it is about missing the part of life that existed only with her. Her absence leaves a gap that cannot be filled, and the memory ensures that she remains a permanent influence, a benchmark, and an emotional anchor. In this way, memory sustains her presence long after she is gone. It preserves her uniqueness, her impact, and the emotional depth she brought into his life, making it impossible to replace her. The memory becomes a quiet, persistent companion that lives in him, guiding his emotions, shaping his understanding of love, and reminding him that some people are unforgettable, not because they were hard to love, but because they were impossible to replace. In the end, the people who are hard to replace teach us the deepest truths about love, connection, and the human heart. They remind us that love is not measured by effort, but by authenticity, courage, and the willingness to be seen. They leave marks on our lives through the memories they create, the lessons they impart, and the influence they continue to have, even in their absence. Losing them does not diminish their impact. It highlights how rare and precious such connections are. By embracing gratitude, accepting what cannot be recreated, and holding space for hope, we carry their presence forward, not as a shadow, but as a guide, a reminder of what meaningful connection feels like, and of what we are capable of giving and receiving. Some people cannot be replaced, and that is what makes their love unforgettable, their influence eternal, and their memory a source of inspiration as we move forward with open hearts.